Loch Ness is enormous. It's a fantastic body of water.
Since the 6th century, there have been reports that a monster lurks in the loch.
A good part of the evidence for the existence of a creature in this water is witness testimony.
Mikko Takala thinks he spotted the beast while walking the Loch Ness shoreline in 2003.
I was near the water's edge, saw the creature. It was a kind of very dark brownish colour, a sort of scaly colour, much like a sort of snake-like texture. It wasn't just sitting there, it was actually swimming against the current. And I remember the hairs going up on the back of my neck because it was so vividly something that I had never seen before.
Takala isn't the only one who insists he's laid eyes on the creature here.
I remember that day, that it was a very sunny day and really still.
In 2010, Richard Preston was hired to redesign the landscape of a castle that sits on Loch Ness.
The first things we were doing that day is checking out around the castle to see what jobs needed doing. And I went for a quick visual inspection around the terrace of the castle. The terrace looks over the loch. I saw something out the corner of my eye glinting. You see things all the time, but you dismiss them because they're just normal. And this was something different. And I proceeded to go from the terrace down to the loch for a closer view. I was shocked. It was shining as if it was wet. So it had 3 humps. And it was just shimmering in the sunlight. And it looked 3D. It just stood out like nothing else I've ever seen before. Not really understanding what it was that I was seeing.
The story of the Loch Ness Monster isn't just a strange Scottish legend. Similar tales in faraway seas make this a global phenomenon. People insist they've seen cryptic creatures making unexpected appearances in photos and video.
Oh, look at this! Over here! Oh my gosh!
And rising from the waters. Some of these reported sightings come from the northeastern United States at Lake Champlain. Growing up here, Bill Villadue thought he knew Lake Champlain inside out, until he saw something strange.
Well, it was a summer day, and the lake was glass smooth. And we decided it was so nice that we would travel down the west side of the lake. My brother-in-law saw the animal first. He shut the boat down. And we came up alongside of it to a distance of about 5 feet. I saw a torso which was approximately the size of a pony. And I could see, not a hump, but a back ridge that was a dark color. The texture was very clear. It had no scales, did not have fur. It was like eel skin. There was no splash, no fuss. It just simply kind of went down like a submarine would dive. Then the experience was over.
There's another place in North America where the legend of a sea monster has also taken hold. The inlets of Vancouver Island, Canada, sit at a similar latitude as Lake Champlain. But unlike Lake Champlain, there's a wide open path here to the vast ocean. In the late 1990s, Robert Iverson stepped out of his house on Vancouver Island.
Well, I was sitting in the chair there, just looking out into the water. And I saw this 3 humps come up. Didn't see a head, didn't see a tail, just saw these humps. And it was the size and the speed that really made me sit up and take notice. And I just leaped up out of the chair to sort of try and get a better look at it, but then it was gone. And then I'm looking and looking and looking, and then I see it again. And that's when I was convinced I had actually seen something. It was big. After it disappeared the second time, I just sat down there and just kept looking. It was startling how big it was. Because, you know, sitting there, you see seals go by all the time, and whales. And this was bigger than any of those things. You see strange things out in the water, but nothing like that. Whenever I'm looking out there, I'm looking for it. I have never seen anything like it since or before.
But back at Loch Ness in Scotland, Richard Preston has more than just his word for what he saw.
I took pictures on my phone because I couldn't believe what I was seeing, really. I looked to see if any colleagues were around so they could look at what I saw, and nobody about. And I turned back round to the loch. There was nothing. Not a wave, a wake, or anything, just still. And it just disappeared.
Researcher Miko Takala believes Preston might have captured a rare picture of the elusive creature.
This is a promising sighting. The interesting thing about these photos is it looks fairly large. I would have to estimate it at 15 to 25 meters long. You have 3 or 4 humps in the water. It's one of the most fascinating pictures of the Loch Ness Monster that I've ever seen.
But skeptics explain sightings and photos like these as hoaxes, mirages, or misidentifications.
Water is mysterious. It can be a mirror, too. A mirror to our own imagination.
Adrian Shine has been investigating Loch Ness since the 1970s and hasn't seen pictures or anything else that he thinks proves the beast exists.
Photographs can be of known animals, misinterpreted. They can be hoaxes, simple mistakes. They can be all sorts of things.
Shine has analyzed dozens of pictures like Richard Preston's.
In the case of Richard's photo, you've got an honest man taking a picture in good light conditions of something that we're quite definitely convinced was there. So then you have the photo. What is in the photo? By looking at the shadows, you can see where the sun was. We've concluded that the Richard Preston pictures are reflections of the sun on the water caused by house windows, and therefore do not represent evidence for the Loch Ness Monster.
Shine says a trick of light, not doctoring, created an illusion in these photos. Over the years, some people have tried to fake pictures of the legendary monster.
The camera lies much more often than the witnesses. The classic pictures have got nothing to do with Loch Ness monsters.
The most famous photo of the Loch Ness Monster is known as the surgeon's photo.
And it is the one image out of all the images which is probably in the backs of the minds of almost all the inhabitants of the Western world when they think of the Loch Ness Monster.
But 60 years later, there was a surprising twist, an admission of an elaborate hoax. The hoaxer claimed the famous picture is really a model of the monster attached to a toy submarine. Back on Vancouver Island, former oceanography professor Dr. Paul LeBlond and illustrator Jason Walton are poring over witness reports of sea creatures. This 2009 video shot off the coast of Alaska has them buzzing.
This is taken by Kelly Nash from his fishing boat. There's a sandbar at just at the back there. And the fishing boat's over here. The head occasionally comes up. At one point, there's a jet of water that comes up in the air. It blows. Pretty amazing. This is the only example that we have, I think, of one of these animals blowing from the back of its head, apparently.
Right. The blurry video makes it hard to tell exactly what this is. Walton has also created sketches based on descriptions from witnesses who report seeing a sea monster.
There's the head, there's the tail, it has serrations at the top there.
The witness descriptions have been so regular and they match each other so well. I really do think that there's a large mystery in our oceans.
Eyewitness testimony in a court of law would hold a great deal of weight, but science is not the law. People's impressions of what they see might be influenced by their expectations, by one's memory, by one's desire to make a story that you can rationalize.
No one knows for sure how many claims of sea monster sightings there have been. But in Lake Champlain alone, more than 300 eyewitnesses have reported seeing an unexplainable creature roaming the waters.
Many people see a strange animal, which is neither a whale nor a familiar other marine animal. It typically has a long neck, a horse-like head. It's 20 to 40 feet long.
Over the past 16 years, biologist Dr. Ellen Marsden of the University of Vermont has documented over 70 species of native fish living in Lake Champlain, but has found nothing large or serpentine.
There's nothing in existence today that has that sort of configuration.
There have been many attempts to prove the existence of the monster of Lake Champlain, and searching can be a challenge.
Lake Champlain's big. Underneath the surface, it's not only a huge three-dimensional area to look,